Start the webinar. So we have our host here, Joanne. She's a product manager for appointments. As I mentioned before coming to PortPro, she spent 5 years working in logistics. So she was like in operations. She was like booking these appointments manually, working out of Long Beach. So she kind of felt the pain of booking appointments firsthand. She's also very cool. She has a million hobbies. So you should connect with her and learn about her life because she's awesome. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen and Joanne, you can start sharing. So like you can choose your own adventure with the slides here.
Perfect. All right. Oh, let me bring up the slides then. Can everyone see my screen? It should be the photo of me again.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So let's dive into appointments. So before we actually get into the product itself, I just want to briefly mention some of the problems that we're trying to solve. So we all know the standard way of booking appointments, right? And that's being done manually, where you or your team, whether that's one person or multiple people across multiple teams, you find the containers that you want to book appointments for within your own TMS or, copying and pasting from emails. You then go to the different terminal websites. If it's in LA Long Beach, there's like 10 of them you have to go to. If you're in one of the other markets like Oakland or Seattle, Tacoma, luckily you just have to go to eModal, but you do still have to go through each of the different terminals when booking and checking for appointments. And then once you've entered in the container numbers, specified the terminal, then you have to constantly check for whether or not appointments are available. If they're not available, then you're probably coming back and checking, if you're lucky, maybe like every hour or more per terminal, right? And so you're doing that over and over and over again, every day, all day, forever. And so it gets very tedious. And sometimes like you don't get the appointments that you want. And that's just for the outgates. Then you have to do it for the empties, which of course have their own difficulties as well with your empty return restrictions per terminal, all that good stuff. So what we're trying to solve here is when you have somebody manually doing it, I kind of mentioned this, but you can maybe do it once an hour per terminal. That could be based off of like your organizational setup. Most of you guys won't have operators staffed 24/7. That's pretty unrealistic for most companies. And of course, terminals can offload vessels at night or over the weekend when you don't have operators working. And so there is that length of time from between discharge to when you can actually have someone look for appointments. That can end up being kind of long sometimes if it's being offloaded on during off hours. So that's the missed opportunity for you to find available appointments. Or with your standard setup, let's say you have customer service members booking your out gates and dispatchers booking your in gates. Whoever it is, they tend to have other tasks and responsibilities that they need to do throughout the day. So they might not just be solely focused on booking appointments. And so then again, that reduces the amount of time they can spend booking appointments and again lengthens that time between like discharge and the actual checking for an appointment. So there's that delay from discharge to actual booking. So that's one thing that we want to help solve. The second thing is our drayage customers are very specific in their requirements and they can be very nuanced in what they need. So, one customer might have very specific hours that they can accept containers, and you have to schedule delivery appointments and then try to match your outgetting appointments to those delivery appointments to reduce storage as much as possible. Or maybe you have some customers who are open 24/7 and just want those containers as soon as they're discharged and want them out of the terminal to reduce demurrage. Some can be open weekends, some can't. Maybe they're just open on Saturdays, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of nuances between the different customers and lanes and warehouses that you kind of need to be aware of. And the person dealing with the customer would typically know very well what those restrictions are. But then if other people need to book appointments for them, you kind of have to memorize or at least make some sort of reference stock for all of the teams to be able to understand what these requirements are. And if those requirements aren't followed, then you might have an upset customer. So again, there's just a lot of room for error and a lot of mishandling errors that could potentially happen. It's a lot to manage for one person or within a team when there's so many different moving factors. And then finally, just the constant checking for appointments. It's so tedious. It's boring. It's soul sucking almost, where you're just copy, pasting, check, copy, paste, check all throughout the day. So those are three things that we want to help improve. The delay from discharge to checking for appointments, ensuring that we're meeting the customer requirements when we're booking the appointments, and have our operators be using their time in a more effective way. We don't want to just have them copying and pasting all day and checking websites. Let's get them on exception management. Let's get them focused on like things that require critical thinking and a better use of their time. So those are three things that we want to help with our appointment automation. So that's where our system comes in. So in a summary, when you book appointments through the automation with PortPro, there's really just 2 steps that you need to take. One, you set up your maximum capacity. 2 is you set up your rules on how you want the automation to behave based off of your operational requirements. And then that's really it. PortPro does the rest. So that's what we're going to jump into right now. What does that actually look like in our system? So let's go through those steps. So 1, we talked about setting your capacity. This is really just something you have to do once when you initially set up your appointments, or if you were to hire like a larger number of drivers, that kind of thing, and you increase or decrease your capacity. Depending on the port markets you're in, you can set this by port market as well, because of course you're going to have a different segment of drivers in LA versus in New York, New Jersey. You're not going to be using the same drivers there. So you go to the port that you want, and then you click on the time slot and say, hey, I think we're okay to book 10 pickups and 10 drops for that time slot. I think that's the max that we can manage. And so with this, when the automation starts booking appointments, it will make sure to not go above these maximums so that it's booking in a way that your business can handle. We're not, if let's say a vessel comes today and offloads all of your containers, now you have 100 million containers, we're not going to book them all for tomorrow, 6 a.m. Just not realistic. So that's where you would set this up here. So this is just the most basic thing you need to do. Next up is the fun part, the real meat of the automation. This is our appointment settings. We call this the templates. You can think of it as advanced rules for your business, essentially. And you can create as many of these as you want, or as few of them as you want, if you want to keep it simple and if your customers are pretty straightforward. So here on the left, these are templates that already exist, but we're going to create a new one together. So here I'm going to click add, and now I have a brand new template. Let's call this demo template. And you can select whether you want it for imports or exports or pickups or returns. So I'm going to stick with pickup imports for now. And this is the important toggle right here. Use this template on a background basis. This means we want to enable the template to book appointments automatically without me as an operator touching anything at all. So as soon as a container becomes discharged or available at the terminal, I want it to start looking for appointments immediately. So with that, I'm going to click this template. And now I have this rules section down here. This is where it gets really powerful and I think really exciting, actually. This is where you can tailor make the template to kind of match what either your operational needs are, whether that's, for like a specific port, I want appointments to be booked in this way. Or let's say for this one specific customer, I want appointments to be booked this way. And this will make more sense in just a moment. So here we have our rules. I'm going to click add rule. So let's say I just want to make a basic one for one customer. And for this customer at this warehouse, they always require delivery appointments and they're only open from, let's say, like 7 to 5. And I'm trying to deliver direct as much as possible. But with the early morning appointments, it won't make sense. So I'm going to have to pre-pull the night prior. So let's make one for pre-pulling. So let's call this demo template pre-pulls. So I'm going to say for customer, let's say customer target. If the delivery appointment, so the delivery time is between 7 a.m. and let's say 11 a.m. because those are, let's say they're 2 hours away from the port. It might take a while for the driver to get to this warehouse. For containers with delivery appointments between 7 and 11 a.m., I want to pre-pull the night prior. So here I can select, I want this to be relative to the delivery appointment. So whatever the delivery appointment is set to, let's say the delivery appointment is for, what's today? Friday. I want to pre-pull 1 day before the delivery appointment and pre-pull in the evening. So that could be, the second shift, I'm going to set it as a priority time slot from 6 to 9 and from 9 to 12. And then let's say we're working out of LA Long Beach. So there's a second shift. So I'm going to do a fallback for these early morning appointments as well. Or actually, I'm going to do 12 to 3. So here, just as a note between what priority versus fallback means, we will always look for the priority selections first. And then only if those appointment times are not available, then we would look for the fallback appointment times. So in this instance, if all goes according to plan, a container becomes discharged, we set the delivery appointment to be 7 a.m. And then when this template starts looking for appointments, it will look for appointments for the day before the delivery date and specifically for these evening times as well. So that's a really good use case of how this template might be used. I'm going to go ahead and save this template. Another good use case for this might be for if you want, oh, we actually already have an example here. We're going to create it again, is if you want to minimize storage fees as much as possible. Maybe you have a customer and the warehouse is always super busy. So sometimes, it takes a while to deliver, but they want to minimize the time that the container sits in their own yard or your own yard, maybe. And so they kind of want to utilize the terminal as a storage space and get as close to the LFD date as possible. So what that might look like is we're going to create a new template, and maybe it's the same customer, but it's for a different warehouse. I can always just clone an existing template too to make your life a little bit easier. And I'm going to call this demo template avoid storage. I know we already have one named that, but we're going to do it again. And then so for this one, we're going to click the rules back on. And let's say instead of delivery time, it's going to be specifically for this warehouse. Let's say Chuck E. Cheese is the warehouse. So if it's this customer, but specifically this warehouse that we know gets backed up a lot, then in that instance, I want to select appointments based off of the LFD rather than the delivery appointment. Maybe they don't require, or we already said they don't require delivery appointments, but we still want to do it by LFD because we know the delivery appointment will be well after LFD anyways. So in this instance, we want on LFD to be the most ideal one. But if that one's not available, then we're okay with it being 1 or 2 days before LFD, but not before. So we have our priority is on LFD and then fallbacks for 1 or 2 days before LFD. And then with this one, we're okay with just your normal business hour. So we actually prefer it to be morning appointments, and then these mid-shift ones, we're going to put as fallbacks, and then second shift, those will be our priority hours as well. So here, this is another really good example of how templates might be used. Before we move on to the next section, I just kind of want to go into some of the additional options you have under the rules. So I know we mentioned 2 specific scenarios, but additional things you could use it for are, you could do it based off of, we already saw it by the customer, but you could also do it by terminal, maybe specifically for, I don't know, LBCT. So LBCT doesn't have their own chassis pool. And so, you might want to select a slightly later appointment time to enable your users to stop by like Ames to get a chassis or something like that. Or maybe for a specific steamship line, you might have a specific SOP. Or another good one is if the delivery day is on a Monday, then you might want to pre-pull on the Friday instead of a Saturday or Sunday, because Saturday and Sunday, the terminal's not open. So these are all good examples of use cases where that, might potentially be implemented with your own business, depending on what your customer requires, or, the nuances of the different warehouses, that kind of thing. Let me see if there's any other interesting ones. Ones if you want to, like, if you're planning on street turning something, if it's overweight, you can exclude ones that are overweight, that kind of thing. If you don't want them to be included in the automation, that's a good use case as well that we often see. Okay. Well, I hope that covered some of the scenarios that you guys are interested in. So this, again, is just setting up the rules themselves. And so how do we actually trigger the appointment or trigger the system to start looking for appointments? Well, there's 2 ways. There's this way, which we talked about. If this toggle is on, then it will automatically trigger the appointment as soon as the container becomes available, unless you set up additional rules on this template where you want it to be later, that sort of thing. This is the most preferred method. This is probably the most effective and most beneficial use of the automation with your own organization. The way I like to think of it is that this is like your proactive planning. This is how you want things to be booked if things go according to plan. And so this should cover the vast majority of the containers that you're trying to book appointments for. So what does this look like? Let's go here. Let me go to a specific customer. Let's say I'm responsible for this customer. And I see, okay, I've got a few containers here and I want them to have appointments be booked, but they're not yet off vessel, that kind of thing. Just to have a look here to see what that looks like. As soon as all of the required fields are entered, that template will apply. So once the container becomes available, it will know, okay, I will need to book appointments based off of this template and these rules that have been set already. Then once it becomes available, I'm going to manually mark it as available, but if you have appointments, you would also have like our upgraded tracking package. And so this part would happen automatically where we would get information from the port saying, hey, this container is now available. And then once that happens, the system then knows, oh, we're good to start booking. Let's do it. Let's get into it. And if I go into the audit here, you will see that it went from a wait, as soon as I marked it available, it went from a waiting status, which meant like, okay, I'm ready. I'm just waiting for it to become available. Then it went directly into requested status, which means it's now looking for all of these appointment times at the terminal website. And these are the ones based off of your settings in your templates. Now, of course, I'm in a demo environment and these aren't real container numbers and we don't have our own credentials. So it went directly to error because our username and password are incorrect, but that's expected. If your credentials are valid, of course, it will then start booking your appointment. But that's how quick it happens. So as soon as it's marked available, whether by a manual user or by your tracking automation, which will be the vast majority of the time, it will immediately go into requested and start looking for appointments at that time. So again, that's coming into what we were talking about earlier of we want to reduce the amount of time between the container being discharged and being made available and the time that we actually start looking for appointments. So with this, it's going to be instantaneous as soon as we recognize that it's become discharged. And so we would be looking for appointments at that time. And then if appointments aren't available at that time, then it's checking every 10 minutes after that to see if new ones have become available. So very, very quick there. So that's one way to do it. Again, the proactive method of the automation running in the background. But as we all know, drayage is crazy. Things do not go according to plan, or fires are lit under our customers and they want different containers with different appointments. They've become hot all of a sudden, or maybe a driver called out. Any of these things might happen. And then we need to scramble a little bit and make adjustments. So maybe we want to manually reschedule an existing appointment or manually trigger the appointment in the first place. And so that's very simple to do. You can do it individually, where I click here and click schedule appointment, and I can select which times I want the automations to search for on the terminal site, or I can do it in bulk. So maybe let's do these 3 and click edit pickup appointment, and I get the exact same option here of selecting. So with this, right now, what it's defaulting to is my maximum capacity settings that I set up earlier of like which times are acceptable for the systems book in general. So that's what's being shown here right now. But then of course you can adjust it in multiple ways. Maybe you're okay with this. This looks perfect. You just want an appointment within the hours that you operate. Perfect. Maybe you just want to make quick adjustments. So I'm going to remove these 2 rows. I just want it in the next 3 days that you're happy with. Maybe I want this week to be a fallback. I would prefer it to be these first 2 days. And the third day is only if the next 2 days aren't available. I don't know, maybe I don't want these times, that sort of thing. So I can manually adjust it this way. In addition, I could also apply the selections based off of the templates that I have. So this time preferences that we saw, whether it's like based off of the LFD, based off of delivery date, I can select that here. So based off of the template that I selected, these are the time preferences that were set there. So I can do that in 2 clicks as well, if it's that customer that I'm trying to book these appointments for. Or another option is I can kind of do like a bulk apply where we go to this button here and say, hey, I just want it for the next 2 days. I only want these appointment times, and apply, and we'll select those specific days and times as well. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and click next, and appointments are processing. And then all of these would go to requested, but you can see it go to requested, but it's going to go to error in just a moment because again, these aren't real containers and we don't have real credentials. But you can see that happening in real time. And if we go back to the audit log, you can see, yeah, it immediately went to requested and then to the next stage. But as quickly as it went from requested to error, that's as quick as it can potentially go from requested to confirmed with a scheduled appointment. So yeah, so that is how you would book things manually as well. All righty, let me see what's next. So that's your standard single transactions that I'm actually really excited to talk about this next thing with you guys. It's something that's in the works and it's being beta tested by a few customers currently, is our dual transactions, at least our first stage of dual transactions. So here it's in this page. So here we can see it's kind of a split screen similar to the dispatch page, but here we have containers that are available to return. And over here we have containers that are available to pick up. So let's say when your dispatcher logs in the morning, let's say it's 5 a.m., they're trying to book, dispatch and make duals for a first shift that same day. They can come in here and say, hey, okay, let's see. I have 2 outgates from APM terminal that I want to make duals for. I go ahead and check the empty return restrictions and see, hey, okay, they are accepting Costco. So let's link it up with the Costco. Sorry, excuse me. So these are all my Costco empties ready to return. And so let's say I want this empty container to be linked with this full. And now I have this option to link dual transaction. So when I do this, I have a few options. First of all, it gives me a little bit of information about both containers. And then I have the option to link only in PortPro, which just means it will just make it easier for your driver on the mobile app. Or I have these two options where it will trigger a request to the terminal itself. So here I can see that there's already an existing appointment time for my pickup, which is tomorrow morning. And so, hey, this means I just want to add my empty container onto the outgate appointment on the terminal site. And then I'm going to go ahead and click or actually, so this is one option. Maybe I just want to utilize the existing appointment time, or maybe I want a brand new appointment time specifically for this tool. And then I have the same options that we saw earlier here. If I don't want to do that, I'll keep the existing appointment time and click confirm. Right now it's just saying, hey, one of them has a different return location that's not set to 8 p.m. So for the empty container, do you want to update the empty return location to 8 p.m.? Yes, I do. And so I'm going to go ahead and continue. There we go. Oh, there's a little bit of an issue there. But when it does, sorry, I think my internet's being a bit odd. But here you can see in a few of them, what you would see here is you have dual transactions being grouped. And I can see which loads are linked together. And when that happens, again, we're sending that request to the terminal site to book or add the empty to that existing outgate, or to create a brand new dual transaction for the two containers. So at least taking that one step that is required from your dispatchers when they're doing they're dispatching per shift. And then in the future, we will have a workflow for you guys where we do recommended matches and kind of like smart match all of your outgates to ingates based off of the empty return restrictions per shift, and say, hey, do you want these outgates linked with these ingates? Yes or no? If you say yes, it links all of them for you. So yeah, so that's something it's being beta tested right now. We've made some great progress in the Port Valley Long Beach and should be ready for release to all of you guys very, very soon. Okay, so that is dual transactions. Let's see if there was anything else. Yeah, we went through the setting up of templates. We went through automatically triggering, manually triggering, and what dual transactions will look like. So let's jump into frequently asked questions. Oh, actually, just kidding. Do you have a poll, Madeline?
Yeah, let's do another poll. Okay, so far, what we learned today was, are you most interested in learning about more? So first is just the typical auto triggering appointments, the dual transactions, or the rule-based automation, or all of it. Wow, everyone is excited about all of it. Look at you, Joanne. You're just blowing everyone away. It's perfect. We love it. Okay. Awesome. Okay. And so Joanne is going to go through some FAQs as she mentioned. Feel free to throw any like specific questions you have for your specific use cases in the Q&A, and we can answer those live. All right. Go ahead, Joanne.
All righty. So first one, especially if you're a newer customer, maybe you're not on appointments yet, or you're new to PortPro, what terminals are currently supported by appointment automation? So we've got a little handy list here. For New York, New Jersey, we have imports for APM and Bayonne. We have exports for APM. We do not have exports for Bayonne just yet, but it's being worked on, and we should have that very soon. For LA Long Beach, we have it for APM, LBCT, FMS, Houston, and all modal terminals. And then same for exports, but we don't have exports for LBCT just yet, but similar, we will be working on that soon. Oakland and Seattle Tacoma, it's all e-modal. So we have all of the e-modal terminals, but only imports. And then Port of Virginia, we have NIT and VIG imports. And then Savannah, GCT was Garden City and Ocean Terminal. And also very excited to announce we are currently in progress for Houston Express Pass. So Bayport and Barbers, we should have by next month, actually. So that is becoming available very soon as well. If there's any other ports or terminals that you want to see, or maybe specifically for exports, specifically for pickups or returns, let us know, drop it in the comments, and we can try to get working on those as well. Next up, we've got how frequently does the automation check for available appointments? So at the container level, let's say you have 10 containers, each of those containers will check specifically for appointments for that container every 10 minutes. In addition to that, we have other checks going on that aren't container specific, but are looking for newly available appointments at every terminal on a much more frequent basis. So that's either every 30 seconds or every 1 minute, depending on the time of the day. And once those checks identify that there's, new appointments available, then it kind of lets the other containers know to start, trying to book appointments at the time as well. So realistically, we're checking about every 1 minute. Next up, we have, can I book appointments under different SCAT codes? Yes, actually, but it is something you need to ask for. We do enable it based off of the branch, or you can call it like your office. So if you have different offices across the country that might use different SCAT codes, and you apply that branch to the loads, that's how we know, and we can set it up so that we can book under different SCACs that way. And finally, which I think is one of the most important ones, what is the best way to implement appointment automation in my organization? The best way to think of it is a partnership between your operators and the automation. It's almost like it's another team member realistically. So I mentioned this previously, but we want to consider the automation to be the proactive planning. Have it cover like 90 to 95% of all use cases and all of your container volume. But then of course you have like a human touch point in the middle, whether that's your dispatcher, whether that's your operator, to mainly intervene when needed. So maybe that's when, the customer says, hey, this container's become hot. Can you move up the delivery appointment? Or maybe a driver called out, now they need to adjust it. Or maybe you have hazmat, which we don't support for all terminals. And so the dispatcher needs to step in and book the appointments for that. So again, it's the ones where that require a little bit more critical thinking, require adjustments on the fly, is when we want your operators, your dispatchers, your customer service reps to come in and assist with it. So it's the change management piece and the training of the team is super, super important to best make sure the automation and the team are working together to make their jobs easier and to, be the most cost effective for your businesses as well. So yes, those are our FAQs. And let's.
Okay, so we've got a few questions in the chat. Jorge wants to know about timeline for appointments feature in Tampa.
Tampa, great question.
Yeah.
Right now, let's see. It would come after Houston, and I think we were making updates to Miami. So it would come after that. So it would probably be a few months out, but let me write that down just to make sure we can get you a more updated timeline, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Is that specifically, or we can follow up you with follow-up questions on Tampa specifically.
Totally, we can follow up with you. And Jorge also had a question about rail appointments, and Victor had one about rails as well.
Great. Man, I wish I could like just easily ask you guys questions. We have tracking connectivity with rails. A lot of rail yards typically don't require appointments. And so we've kind of like, we haven't done too much work on that, but if we're seeing more rails that do require appointments, then we're happy to jump on that and kind of start adding rail appointment automation into the fold and treating it kind of like marine terminals as well. So Victor and Jorge.
Victor and Jorge again. If you guys, I'm sorry, we're having some issues with our chat, but if you wanted to write in like the specific rail yards that you want appointments in the Q&A, then we can take note of those. And okay, Giovan, PortPro is only for containers or can it be used for project cargoes and pallets? It's only for containers right now. Right, Joanne? Yeah, it's just for containers
it's
right
for a containerized cargo. So we're not doing like, oh gosh, I can't think of the word, like the sand and the gravel and all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay, and we have a few people whose hands are up. I'm going to try to allow this to, I've never done this before. Jacob, I'm going to allow you to talk. Are you ready? Okay, allow to talk. Are you talking?
He's on mute.
Okay, you can unmute and talk if you'd like. Okay, well, we're going to come back to you, Jacob, or you can put your question in the Q&A. Okay, Alir, you're next. I'm going to allow you to talk. Hold on, I'm going to disable talking for you. Okay, let's see. Let's see if this can work. Okay, you can unmute yourself. Alir, if you have a question. Okay, we're gonna try this later. All right, you guys can.
No,
oh, okay, you're good. You're good.
Sorry,
You're
I
good.
couldn't find me. Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you. I appreciate the demo.
Oh, okay. Thanks so much.
Oh, thanks, Lear.
Hey guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to talk to you guys sometimes today or tomorrow if also you can give me a call.
Okay, for sure. We'll set up time with you for tomorrow, or
Thank you.
We'll figure it out. Thanks, Alir.
Thanks again.
Okay. All right. So we've got Andrew says, does the system notify for freight and custom holds?
Yes, if you have, what is it, the silver or gold tracking package, then you get freight and customs holds. I believe our base subscription gives you LFD, vessel ETA, and there's 3 other dates that it gives you, but once you go to the next level of tracking, you get freight holds and a lot of other information via tracking and the terminal websites and steamship lines.
Yeah, so it's in our higher tiers. So if you don't have those available, you can talk to your CSM. And then NS, do you know what an NS appointment is?
I actually
Joanne?
don't know what NS. Chris, can you specify what NS is?
Okay, I'll say what is NS. All right. And then Jorge has a list of rail terminals he wants. That's
your
awesome.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So we'll take notes of those. And this feature,
Sounds like
yeah,
you want
Jenny,
Chicago,
it's
Jorge.
yeah, Chicago. I'm just going to respond to this so everyone can see. Okay, will this feature be available at an additional cost? Yes, appointments is available in the highest tier of PortPro. So you'll have to talk, if you don't have it right now, you'll have to talk with your CSM to add it onto your subscription. And then does the manual setup of appointments override the template? That's a good question. Like, do you mean like if you manually book appointments, does it override
Yes.
what's happening in your template?
Yes, if Elizabeth, if that's your question, if you were to manually input an appointment time yourself, it would stop any automation related to the appointments for that. So
Gotcha.
yes. Right, so NS is Norfolk Southern. Norfolk, we have 2, so Norfolk, that's Port of Virginia, right? So that's
Yeah.
NIT, Norfolk International Terminal, and was it VIT, Virginia International Terminal? So we have those 2 terminals, but we don't have Norfolk Southern if that is a new terminal, but I can add that to our list. Southern, and that was Chris.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. And then let's see what we got here. Rupinder, sorry, I'm butchering your name. This says operate in LA and Long Beach and Oakland. When can you start using it for booking appointments? We are currently operational in both of those ports. And we have most of our customers using appointments use it out of LA Long Beach. So we're totally set up to start doing that. So yeah, just reach out to your CSM and they can help you out. And then Andrew says, we're not a customer yet, but we're wondering if export bookings update automatically when vessels / cutoffs change. If export bookings update automatically when vessels / cutoffs change.
Right now, I don't believe the appointment booking, let's say you've secured an appointment already. It currently wouldn't update automatically, but the tracking would identify cutoff date changes automatically. So if that's identified, then it would need to be updated manually if the vessel schedule changes. But in that instance, like if you have your auto booked appointment, you can trigger the reschedule manually, and then it would still automatically book the new appointment for you.
So the reschedule trigger is manual, but then the appointment booking itself, it would be automatic. Yeah, so
that's something that we can
question.
add as a feature though, should export dates change.
Yeah. Okay, is it available for Vancouver? Ash asked.
Right now, no, I'm so sorry, but it is on our list. We got a few on our list to get to, but it's not quite there yet.
So would Vancouver be after Tampa? Because you said it was.
We would need to look at the volume between both. And
and figure it out. Yeah. And then if terminals drop earlier appointments, would the system reschedule for earlier? So do you mean like if an appointment was scheduled for, I don't know, let's say 12 p.m. and then a 9 a.m. slot opened up, the system might reschedule for 9 a.m.
This is a
something
great
like
question,
that?
actually. We didn't jump into this too much in the demo, but let me go to it really quick. It depends on your settings. So let's say you have a template where you have, you just want first available. You don't care about the LFD date. You don't care about the delivery date. You just want the first available appointments. And you have these set to priority and then the later one set to fallback. So we'll go through 2 scenarios of this. One is just based off of the time itself for first available. And if there's this toggle here that says automatically reschedule my appointment if a fallback is booked and a priority appointment becomes available. And so you can set this up to be, for like 3 days, however long you want it to be, or maybe just a few hours. So if So again, when the automation is searching for appointments, it's going to try to find these time slots first. And if those aren't available, then it will look for these ones. However, if it ends up booking a fallback and you have this toggle on, it will keep looking for one of these more desirable appointment times for you. And so in this instance, if it were to book, let's say like a 4 p.m. appointment for the next 8 hours or maybe the next 48 hours, it will continue to look for like a 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. appointment. This could also be similarly done by day. Like if you care about how close it is to LFD or to the delivery date, let's say you have, your maybe you want it earlier. So you have your priority set to 3 or 4 days and your fallback 1 or 2 days. Same thing. We'll look for appointments on these days first. But if we get these ones, then it will continue to look for these days even after it's been booked. Great question.
Okay, I think that we got through all of the questions. Yeah, I think we have all the questions. If you have anything else, feel free to keep asking. And yeah, or you can follow up afterwards. We'll be sending a follow-up email with a recording and a recap article tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. And then you can respond to that email with any additional questions that you may have. Yeah, so thank you guys so much. There are some questions in the chat. Oh, wait, do you see a chat, Charlotte? Okay. I literally cannot see a
Yeah, I
chat.
don't see it either.
Yeah, I think we're blind to this chat. Oh my gosh. Okay, is Charlotte gonna? Okay. Well,
Thank you, Jorge and Chris, for specifying Norfolk Southern, the rail. I'm dumb. I was thinking of Norfolk, the city. Okay, so Chicago and Atlanta, or NS in general, requires rail appointments. So that's something we'll have a look at. Cool. Sounds good.
okay. I feel Charlotte, would you mind coming off mute and like reading out the questions in the chat to us? Because I literally I cannot see the chat. Maybe I
You don't
think
have access to the
maybe
chat.
it wasn't enabled or something. Okay, I'm gonna let you talk, Charlotte.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so there's some chats in the or questions in the chat. There's actually quite a few. Okay, is the reschedule feature actually working? Will
Yeah,
PortPro
the reschedule thing will work if it was an automatically triggered appointment. If it was manually triggered, it only takes into consideration the time preferences. It doesn't look at the other settings of the template. So as long as the appointment was automatically triggered by the template, then the reschedule thing will work, but that doesn't apply to the manual triggers.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the next one is, will PortPro be at IANA event next week in Long Beach? We are using the appointment system, but not the fullest capabilities.
We will be at IANA, so you can come stop by our booth. We're giving out some good stuff. And I think we're doing a happy hour for select folks as well. So you can ask about that at the booth.
And then, yeah, so Jamie, go ahead and come to the booth. I'll be there as well, so I can help with some of the appointments questions that you have. And then the next one from Jamie is, are you taking screenshots every time you request an appointment and get denied? Our customers are requiring screenshots as proof that we attempted to make an appointment and they need to include the date and time.
Yes. Well, yes and no. We mostly do. We had to pause them for e-modal appointments for a period of time. It's been a couple months now, but we're just about at the stage to be able to start enabling it with them again. But for all other terminals, APM, Bayonne, even though Bayonne is technically e-modal as well, but it's a different site. APM, Bayonne, YTI, LBC, APM, we have those screenshots, and we should have the e-modal ones back up and running pretty soon here.
Okay,
And it's
so
any time that the automation is unsuccessful in booking an appointment, and if the terminal were to like cancel the appointment on their side without any of us prompting it as well.
Okay, gotcha. That's it. That's all the questions that we have.
Cool.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. If you have any other questions, again, feel free to follow up with us via email. We can keep answering stuff. Great. Well, thanks everyone so much. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Bye.